on to you and you write it down, or?
Well, like I say, I took my little fiction writing class. Now, remember, I'd had vampiric people on my mind and heart for years and years and years and years and years, and I prayed for them for years and years and years. And when I took the little fiction writing class in 1983, it's like bang. And I finished my second little short story, which was essentially the fight scene in Silently. And then over the next 2 months, I continued seeing it. And so over those 2 months, I saw the equivalent, which was essentially the 16 novel-length stories that it will become. And it's like I saw them in a movie screen. For example, in the second story, you meet Janine, a young vampiric girl living in Helena, Montana. You see the blood cult leader, Nolan. You see his daughter, Alicia, which is 7 years old at the time. See the old lady at the little trailer park, the other people in Janine's life. You see Thomas's parents. You see Thomas's sister, Kimberly. But like I say, I just knew these people. I didn't make them up. Does that make sense?
Well, do you think any chance maybe...
I just knew them.
You think they could be channeling into you, or, they want you to write these stories?
I wouldn't necessarily say channeling. I would say that the Lord was helping me understand and see this stuff, because, like I say, I had prayed for them for so long. And there was another example of something that happened to me after all of this took place. If you'd like for me to recount that?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. When I was about, now this is two parts to this. When I was about 13 years old, first of all, I had bad dreams for so many years. And when I say bad dreams, I mean dreams largely of me dying. I don't know that it's possible for a human to have that, but I had them. When I was about 13 or 14 years old, I remember praying to the Lord about them. And the thing that touched my heart more than anything else was that they were lonely. And you can tell from the sense of talking to this young man that spoke to you, you're isolated and alone, and that's a hardship for anybody. Now, the Scripture says that the soul that drinketh blood, eateth any manner of blood, should be cut off from the people. And that's pretty much true, but there's no reason why you can't be compassionate if you know that someone is like this and not just afraid, because it's really a hard thing just to survive from day to day. Like I say, I saw the storyline in 1983. About 1999, I joined a ministry, and I was very blessed and happy to be there. In 2002, I was offered the opportunity to go on an international retreat called A Walk to Emmaus. Some of the people listening to this broadcast may know what that is. It's essentially an international organization where you go away for a weekend and you hear talks about the love of God and the grace of God, love of God, grace of God all weekend long. And these people just love on you in this camp environment. Well, I went on a walk to Emmaus in 2002, and on the third night, I had a vision. I saw a blackened landscape. Everything was black. Everything was dark. The only light seemed to come from the hills in the distance. They were outlined in red, like the land was on fire. And I heard what I thought was like a gurgling sound. thought originally that it was water, but as I got closer, I realized that there was a chasm cut in the earth, and it was very deep, and there were people down in this chasm, and there was a river of blood that was pulling them along, and people were trapped down there. When I got close enough to look down in the chasm itself, there was a young woman down in there in amidst the rest of the people, and she was looking up. And when I saw her face, I recognized her. Well, at that point, there was just nothing more for me to do but to just jump down in that chasm and help them. So I started looking around for like a branch, something I could lower over the side to maybe help them out. I picked up this large branch in both of my hands, but when I picked it up, it was sort of fragile and it sort of crumbled to like it was burned. And so at that point, I took about 2 or 3 steps back and took a flying leap off the ledge, and I woke up as I was going down into the chasm with them. Now, I told a friend of mine that when I got out of the retreat, and he thought I was largely crazy. You don't jump down into a pit if you want to help somebody out of it, was what he said. But that vision gave me a lot of peace, and it settled a lot of things in my heart. It told me, first of all, on that retreat, the only thing I had on my mind was getting closer to God. That was the only thing I had, going into it. I come out of the retreat having had that vision and jumped in that chasm, and in my heart that meant that I was going to go after them, whatever it took.
Wow.
And so that's they're on my mind 24/7. I think about them every day.
Yeah. Now, how old are you now?
24.
Okay. So you sound a lot older.
Maybe 25.
Pardon me?
Maybe 25.
Okay.
I guess I should say 25.
Okay. Interesting. How's your book sales doing at this point?
Well, if I could get some people to actually buy them and read them, that would be just cool.
Well, while you're on here, tell where can they find your books? Do you have a website where they can buy, or is it on Amazon, or you got anything?
The books are on Amazon and Kindle. If you look, there's another Douglas Robinson who writes, but I'm not him. But if you search for my name and the Silently series storyline, you should be able to bring them up. And right now it's Silently Comes the Night and Rites of Passage, and the other 3 are in process.
Okay. Now, are you self-publishing these, or do you have a publisher?
The reason I formed Silently Publishing is because that I was running head-on into a very sensitive subject of blood drinking. So, in a sense, they're self-published because I formed Silently Publishing, but in another sense, they were published by a publisher since we are a real publisher.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Because how sensitive it was, I felt that I had to retain editorial control. I couldn't trust this to, say, an editor that didn't know what they were doing. I felt that much responsibility with it.
Well, I know from talking to other people, who wrote books and stuff on there, they have told me that when they send them off, they get the corrections back and they look at it. And one of the writers I had on said, gee, it didn't even feel like the same book that I sent in to them.
Well, it's a lot of work to edit to edit a novel-length story. It, generally speaking, to produce a printed book costs about $10,000, generally, including cover art and all of that. I got to learn typesetting. I bought Adobe InDesign and taught myself how to typeset.
Oh, wow. So, okay, so they can go to Amazon and buy your book, and Do you have a website? I know I asked you that. Can they buy it directly from,
Yes.
from you?
No, I don't. I don't. They are. The books are produced when you purchase them through the Create Space, which is a company that Amazon owns. It's largely a platform that allows a writer to prepare their book and to upload it as a PDF. And then these lovely people at Create Space, they have a mechanism of producing the book as it's ordered.
Oh, wow.
Now, the website for this is HTTPS, because it's a secured website, silently-publishing.com.
Okay. And have you done any YouTubes or anything about this, or have you been thinking about it, or if you haven't, maybe you should?
Because of how extensively social media is monitored and traced and all of this, since vampiric people are the most hunted people on the planet, I don't want the exposure, so we're low profile on purpose.
Yeah, that's one thing I will bring up. The person I had on my show, he said that there are actually still, not like what you see in the movies, but there is actually a group of people that hunt vampires and, basically kill them. And that's another reason why he said he didn't want to leave his apartment.
Well, if they find a vampiric person like in one of my stories, they are much stronger than a normal person. So you go out and find one of mine, then you will die.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to find any vampire, to be honest with you, but I mean, wow. I mean, do you feel that? How can I say? What is the final? What is the final stage of this? I mean, after they make all the changes.
You mean where they are when they change?
Yeah, I mean when they've made all the changes.
Oh, you mean like in the story-wise?
Story-wise, and
are
actually,
you referring to the editing?
No. I'm talking about in your book. The vampire after they make all the changes, and maybe in real life too. I mean, have you ever thought about how far they can actually change to? And
Yes. Well, they stay on my mind all the time, and sometimes I get little glimpses of things, but right now I'm just mostly focused on, like I said, when I saw the story, I saw it in its breadth and its width from the beginning. I saw what would be the equivalent of the 16 stories. So right now I'm focusing a lot on staying in that vein and staying in that thought and producing a story that, even though it's dark and it's hard and it's bad for them, and, sometimes people die, they don't mean for it to, but sometimes they do, that I'd like to make a story where grace is available to them somewhere. And, for the people who care to look, if you read about Janine's life, she was an extraordinarily godly girl.
Yeah.
To be caught in this. And she retained a lot of her, I guess I would call it gentleness. And she loved Alicia, and Alicia loved her. And she did everything she could to protect Alicia's life. And Macon, of course, got caught up in this because Thomas was kidnapped as part of the blood cult.
Uh-huh.
And so now she has to track him down. But like I say, Janine was a remarkable girl, and it's worth reading the second story just to get to know her.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, how can I say it? I mean, after I had the guest on, what you're telling me, kind of really fits in from pretty much what he was telling me. So, however it's coming to you.
If you're on their side of the fence, it looks a lot different from their side of the fence because they're in it.